Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wench Bench, where friends sit and talk about fabulous fictional females and how their stories have influenced us throughout our lives. My name is Fonda.
And my name is Alison.
Today, Alison is going to be talking about Thor.
Yay!
I don't know how else to do a thunder sound effect, so I just did drum rolls. I hope that's okay.
We'll see how it sounds when I get to editing. But yeah, so I'm going to be talking about Thor, as many people may call her Lady Thor, but during this podcast, I will just be referring to it as Thor. So if I say that, assume female.
Well, in her comic run, they don't call her Lady Thor at all. They just call her Thor, right?
Yes, she is just Thor.
Yeah.
And the Thor that we all know is called Odinson. So that's how I'm going to be referring to him.
Got it. Now I also won't get confused. Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, start at the beginning. Make everything make sense.
Don't confuse our listeners or Fonda.
Especially don't confuse my co-host. So I first got into Thor back in 2014 when Thor #1 came out and revealed that there was going to be this awesome new female one. After the first comic, I was absolutely sold. I wanted to read every single comic. I have a statue of her downstairs.
I love this statue, by the way. Just side note. It's one of my favorites that you have.
It's so gorgeous. It's like kind of an anime style, and she's absolutely stunning. We will post a picture on our socials so that you can see how incredible my statue is.
It's a very empowering statue.
Yes. There's going to be a bunch of times throughout this episode where we touch on all the different reasons why I love Thor. But before we get into all of the good stuff, I wanted to talk a little bit about the reception that she got when she was first announced, and actually, like, even to this day, is still getting stuff online about people.
Don't women just always, regardless of how old a topic is, get shit online?
Yes.
If we're being honest.
Yes. So I actually searched reception to Jane Fosters Thor.
Oh.
And there's still like fairly recent stuff, which is a lot of, oh, I haven't read this comic. What do you people think? And there was a surprising amount of people who said, I haven't read it, but I disagree with it for these reasons. And it's like,
I haven't read it, but, or it's like that, I'll let you finish, but, excuse me, but.
Yeah, so a lot of that came up, which again, like, if you didn't want to read the comic, if you don't like the idea of Thor being a woman, then just don't read it. But also, you don't have to shit on it as soon as it starts coming out. It's something that I see happen a lot with any time they try and change a character to make it into a female. I did find an absolutely incredible quote from an article on sci-fi.com. It's very funny because, as some of you may know, Thor spent some time as a frog. So here is the quote. Why a female Thor was pandering to women when Thor had once enjoyed a lengthy existence as a frog and hadn't ever been accused of pandering to frogs remains to be explored. But the fact is that Jane Foster had a lot standing in her way yet, still delivered unto us one of the most epic eras of Thor ever. Pandering to frogs.
I want that to be a t-shirt. Like, I bet you it is somehow, like, it probably exists. All these things have to exist by now.
Oh, probably. At least somewhere on the internet.
Somewhere. Like a sticker, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I hope to find it one day so I can just put it on my on something I own.
Yeah. I think that article really sums up my feelings on the entire comic series. It is not pandering to change genders like that. It's not doing things like that. We have an overabundance of male characters in comics. as I will talk about a little bit later, because there's a scene in one of the comics that I think does female representation just so much good, and I love it. And I was like reading it again before this podcast, and I just got like chills reading this part in the comic, and it's so good.
Because I remember when, quote unquote, the Lady Thor comic first came out, just Thor. I remember being really excited personally because I was like, ooh, new story, new take, who dis? I think now I am personally much more intrigued by quote unquote superhero titles that are just that, like a title, like Captain America, for example. Most people know of Captain America as Steve Rogers, the OG, but like other people take up the mantle many times within the history of Marvel Comics. And not even within Marvel Comics, but like if you think about Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel, like those are names that got interchanged by two separate people. And also I know that 007 is a title, like totally different franchise, but also like not a person that owns the said name.
Yes.
But someone else does.
Yes. And actually, the Lady Freya explains this extremely well in the comics. So she is incredible in the comics. Like, absolute god tier, badass woman. Quite literally god tier.
Literally. Literally. No, figuratively.
No.
Literally.
Actual god.
Actual factual.
At one point, while she is talking to Thor, she explains that it's not just being worthy of the hammer, because weapons will come and go. Like, it's an object. And what you really need to be worthy of is the title of Thor, to be able to carry that name into the history books and to earn it and make sure that when people speak of Thor, they speak of people who are fighting for the right reasons, who are mighty and who are strong, but who are also kind. And it's gorgeous. Freya just sums it up so well. So, yeah. Titles are just titles.
Exactly.
I did find another great quote from when this came out from denofgeek.com, an article written by Jim Dandy. Quote, Aaron's run on Thor is easily one of the two greatest of all times. It is entirely about what responsibility gods have to inspiring their followers. The point of making Jane Thor, which is made explicit in the astoundingly good Asgard Shi'ar War, is that proper gods should earn worship rather than taking it for granted. It's basically Spider-Man's power responsibility riff with deity sized. So that totally sums up, and I'll talk a little bit about the Asgard Shi'ar War, but it really does sum up why changing it to a woman and giving Jane Foster the chance to wield the hammer and show might as a female was really important. To remind you in a little bit of a different way what the Thor story is all about, because the same thing happened with male Thor. Just different lens, different colors of the rainbow. My husband, who works at a comic book shop, told me when this first started coming out, he spoke about how Thor has always been one of their like highest selling comic runs, and their orders actually went up afterwards. Yeah. Because a lot of the current readers were still willing to read the story because they like the setting, they like the story, they like the themes. And then you also got in a ton of new readers. Like, I don't still read Thor. Not sorry about it. But yeah, so I just found that really interesting how there was all this talk online about how it was going to do poorly, and then it did so well. Like, it was one of the most successful gender switches I think Marvel has ever really pulled off.
Yes! Yes!
Success!
So happy!
So now we're going to get into all the really awesome, good, fun stuff.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, I'm going to start with talking a little bit about Jane Foster. So in the comics, ones that go back multiple years, back to 1962 to be exact.
That's how far we're going?
That's how long Jane Foster has been a character.
That's the year my mother was born. Damn. Wow, okay.
Yes.
Put it in perspective for me, Alison. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I haven't read these because, come on, nobody has that much time. But basically, Jane has always been a strong, driven female character. Her mother died at a young age, and her father worked 2 jobs to make sure she could have anything she wanted. Aww. He also encouraged her in everything that she did, making sure to never miss any of her events, but he unfortunately later dies of complications due to a heart attack.
Oh.
She starts as a nurse who worked with Thor's alternate identity, Dr. Donald Blake.
Wait. Odinson had an alternate identity at one point?
Yes. Dr. Donald Blake.
Dr. Donald Blake.
Yes, a slightly infirmed man, like very much playing the like weaker, kind of doing the whole Clark Kent thing.
Okay, gotcha.
They eventually fall in love. It's pretty tumultuous. A bunch of stuff happens, including having Sif give her some of her life force in order to save her.
What?
Yeah. Pretty crazy, right?
Wow.
Lots of stuff happens. She does eventually marry a different man, though, Dr. Keith Kincaid. And she becomes a doctor.
Oh!
Yay! Full-fledged doctor.
Hot diggity.
In the Civil War arc, she is on the side of Captain America and joins the Secret Avengers.
Really?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah, she acts as their paramedic, essentially, so she helps to patch them up and all that stuff. At some point, Thor dies and comes back, so Jane leaves her husband and eventually opens a practice with Dr. Donald Blake in the resurrected city of Asgard.
Interesting.
Yes. And that's kind of it for like her history in the comics. And I also kind of want to touch on the movies a little bit too.
Played by Natalie Portman.
Played by
Love her very much.
So much. So much. And they actually, in the movies, she is an astrophysicist. She is the one who finds Thor when he is kicked out of Asgard and saves him, essentially. They have an intense and tumultuous relationship for a time, but as far as the movies are concerned, they are now broken up.
Yes.
A little bit in, I believe, Endgame, he talks a little bit about how he has no more girlfriend anymore. But while Thor Odinson is on a bit of a downward spiral, she is making great strides in her scientific endeavors.
Oh, please tell me.
That's all the internet will tell me.
Oh.
She's just thriving.
Thriving. Like
without
a fabulous woman she is. Just thriving. I love that that's the word. Not like doing well or like...
No, she's speaking at conferences and making like super huge leaps and stuff in regards to like the science of like the Rainbow Bridge and all that kind of stuff. The things that she was researching in the first Thor movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I found that very...
Good for you, Jane Foster.
Very interesting. So Jane Foster takes up the mantle as Thor in 2014 with her own comic written by Jason Aaron, drawn by Russell Dauterman, and with the color artist Matthew Wilson. It is an incredible comic. I'm showing Fonda the cover art.
This is what made me like get a lady boner, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that mask, like her whole helmet is just so cool.
This was, I think, one of the costumes I saw someone have the third year ever going to Fan Expo Vancouver.
Yes.
And I remember just like being like, if I could make my own, this costume would be like what I would thrive to work towards.
Oh yeah,
strive,
strive to work towards. I want to make this costume so bad. It's just so cool. Like, and it's not
the black
revealing.
lip.
Yeah, the black lip
The black
is so
lip
good.
pairs well with like the fact that you can't see her eyes at all.
Yeah.
And it's not a revealing costume. You're so right.
And she actually has a full chest plate. And it's such an incredible character design. They did such a good job. I literally have my comics sitting next to me so that I can show Fonda references.
And she's not wearing heels.
Nope.
Not saying a strong woman can't wear heels. Just saying.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking love that.
So good. In this current iteration, her and Thor are not together, but they are still friends, I suppose.
Care for each other?
They still care for each other.
Yeah, they've been in each other's lives for so long. Like, it would make zero sense for them not to have any sort of connection or feelings, whether it's romantic, platonic, sisterly, brotherly, you know.
Yeah, it's very complicated.
As it would be.
Yeah. So she is sick with breast cancer.
Like on bed.
Dying, thin, no hair. But, like, a part of the reason why I like it is that they never really show her when she's in her human form as being weak. They do a really good job at not making it seem like cancer's the villain all along. Like, it's just a fact. It's not really a big drama point.
Got it.
Which I like. And she is also representing Earth, or Midgard, in the Congress of the Worlds on Asgard.
Oh.
So she's a woman in politics and STEM.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. Double dipping.
Double dipping. We begin the comic with having no one, not even the reader, know that Jane Foster is the one who picks up the hammer.
Yeah, isn't the final panel, like, leaving it to, at least in the first issue, the one that Alison just so kindly showed me, the very last page, it shows, like, I think Mjolnir. Mm-hmm. Did I even say that right?
Mjolnir, yeah.
Oh, thank God. Winged it. I always have a hard time saying it.
Meow meow.
Meow meow. It shows, like, he, and it switches it to she.
Yes.
And it shows a hand grab it. And yes. I remember, like, the internet flipped out with that last page.
I love that they did that. Love it.
It was great. Love it.
Oh my God.
It was great.
It's so good. Yeah,
excited.
and then, like, the last panel is her, like, raising the hammer above her head, and there's, like, thunder and lightning everywhere. It's
thunderbolts and lightning, very, very frightening me.
Mamma mia. Yeah, just seriously, if you have the means, like, go read this comic book run. Like, even if you just read 1 through 8, it is just a stunning collection of artwork and story, and it's beautiful. It is kind of hinted, though, that it was Freya who picked it up.
Oh,
just a little hint.
I can see that, was it a red herring?
Yes. So that is really fun.
Ooh.
The first run follows Thor as she discovers her powers, fights against frost giants and other baddies, and is introduced to her main villains, Malekith and Dario Agger.
Who?
Dario is the CEO of Roxxon. He's a billionaire, an asshole, and a minotaur.
What is Roxxon?
Roxxon is
a company or a planet?
Is a global company.
Okay.
Eventually, into the comics, he joins one side on the War of the Realms, and he's basically trying to use the other realms for, like, mining and forestry and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Asshole Minotaur. Cool. Didn't know I needed one of those.
Apparently you do. Also, Odin. Because he's a misogynistic asshole in these comics. He's, like, going crazy, and he's such a dick. I hate him so much in these comics.
Oh. Like, crazy, like, cuckoo, or, like, crazy because he's getting older, you know, and someone uses the term senile, which isn't necessarily the nicest way to phrase it, but, like, what type of crazy we talking about, Alison? Like, mystical space god crazy, or, like...
It seems like he's kind of just gotten to the point where he's like, I am the All-Father, my word is law. Like, a lot of other things happened in other comics before this. Like, Thor Odinson loses his powers because Nick Fury, like, whispers something in his ear. So that kind of obviously threw Odin through a loop, and he's like, oh, my son isn't everything he's supposed to be, which puts unneeded pressure on Odinson.
Poor Odinson.
Poor guy.
So Thor is fighting Dickhead Minotaur as a bad guy.
Yep.
Who was the other bad guy?
Dario Agger is the Minotaur. Malekith is actually the Dark Elf. We meet him in the Dark World of the movies.
Oh!
Yeah. He is incredibly smart. And obviously frost giants, because how can you have a new Thor not fight frost giants?
Like, how can we not?
It's mandatory.
Kind of a bad joke. If he was a Minotaur and you had said it's mandatory, I would have been like, it's Minatory. I'm sorry.
It is a bad joke. You are correct. Oh yeah, and on top of all of this, every time she becomes Thor, all of the medicine that is supposed to be helping her fight cancer gets purged from her system.
Oh, every time she fights as Thor.
Every time she transforms. Okay. Because it's not a natural part in her body. And so when it changes, the hammer sees it as something that's attacking her and hurting her. And so it's trying to heal her, but she's dying.
Mew is an antibody.
Yeah.
Oh, great job, Mjolnir. Frick. I had it, and I'll never get it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
But also bad job, Mjolnir, because she needs them chemo meds.
Oh, so it also gets her the chemo med. Oh, no.
So it's seeing her cancer as a natural part of her body. Yeah. So the cancer is supposed to be there, quote unquote, and the medication is not. And so it purges the medication every time.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah. It's not good.
It's not good at identify. Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Never mind. Sorry, I take back what I said.
I know. I mean, Mjolnir is kind of an antibody.
Kind of, but not the one that she needs.
Nope. The comics also follow the original Thor, now Odin's son, as he tries to discover who is behind the mask. He has a list of incredible women that you actually get to see in the comic from all throughout his life that includes his mother, Sif, Loki, Roz Solomon, and Jane. Oh. He does eventually cross Jane off the list, though, after he visits her and sees how sick she is.
The assumption.
And the whole while he is learning what it means to be worthy again and not bitter about losing his hammer like his father. So next we get The Mighty Thor, number 1 through 23.
Ooh, still with Jane Foster?
Yes. Yes. So she has a couple. These are her 2 main runs. She also does have a pretty major role in the Marvel crossover series, The War of the Realms, which I have not actually read yet because reading Marvel crossovers is really hard when they're coming out in single copies.
Well, especially because normally when they're doing crossovers that include other heroes, it's like if you don't know what had happened previously for that other hero that's showing up, it can get.
Yeah. So, Mighty Thor, number 1 through 23. In this run, we find Jane still being a representative on Asgard.
Cool.
And Thor is now dealing with much crazier things. For example, Malekith is continuing his plans to rule the realms by starting the War of the Realms.
Great!
Odin and Klie, his brother, are being big jerks by putting Freya on trial, saying that she has essentially committed treason for assisting Thor.
What?
Yeah, how dare you? Loki stabs Freya in the back, literally, with a poison dagger.
Oh, no. I thought he loved her.
He does. It's complicated.
Okay. Fucking complicated.
Welcome to any kind of mythology. She also teams up with Roz Solomon, who is a super badass S.H.I.E.L.D. agent.
Okay.
To fight back against Dario Agger. She gets to fight the Silver Samurai and the Exterminatrix. And a bunch of other really cool bad guys. And S.H.I.E.L.D. discovers her secret identity But
How is it always S.H.I.E.L.D. does that first? You know what I mean? Like, not a godly...
yeah, Shield's something else. She manages to trick them into believing that she is not Jane by having Mjolnir basically put up like a
holographic image.
Mjolnir creates an illusion so that it looks like Jane and Thor are both in the same place at once. She also deals with the Shi'ar invasion.
Oh.
So, as a distraction tactic, Malekith sends the Shi'ar to Asgard to essentially, like, test them because these Shi'ar are, like, jerks. And Thor ends up going through a bunch of trials. This is where you really get the idea of gods needing to earn the respect of their people, because she's not willing to sacrifice her morals. She's not willing to sacrifice a bunch of other lives for any of the reasons. And they put her in all of these, like, really impossible positions, and she always finds a way out of it because she's amazing. And it's a really theologically interesting story.
Good word, theologically.
Thank
nice.
you. Yeah, pulling out my $5 words here. Yeah, so it's a really interesting couple comics where she goes through all of these things, and you get to know her as a character so much more, and you get to know what she values, and it's really cool. And then at one point there's like a bunch of Asgardians on a bunch of Viking ships, like, in space, and there's a big battle, and it's just awesome.
It's dope.
And then lastly, of her own titles at least, we have the Mighty Thor 700 through 706.
700?
They changed their numbering system back to the old way that it was. So that's why it jumps from 23 to 700.
Okay, thank you.
This is the chunk of comics where we see Thor battle her greatest foe, the Mangog, the manifested vengeance of a billion murdered souls.
Shit.
Who has a sole purpose of basically destroying Asgard. A couple cool parts in this storyline is that Jane actually stands up to Odin while she's actually in her mortal form.
Really? You go, Jane Foster.
I know. She calls him out on his stubbornness and how it is that will lead to the destruction of the realms. And he calls her a woman a lot in this argument, which he just generally throughout the comics refers to as a woman.
Like, not her name.
Like, not her name. Just like, woman. And it's like, I can hear it. I read it on the page and I hear exactly
the tone. And it's like a visceral reaction. And it's like they're saying it as if it's some sort of insult. And it's like, so it's just awful. Cool. I mean, not cool, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. It is during this disagreement that Freya actually steps in. She's weakened and barely alive after being poisoned by her son. She steps in and sides with Jane just as Jane collapses behind her.
Oh no.
Yes. So Jane is rushed back to Earth
because
of the cancer. And because of the fact that none of her treatments for the past however many months have been actually having any effect.
Can you please explain to me why her treatments have to be on Earth? Like, she knows of godly people, and the majority of the universe is so big. Is there a reason why?
So Jane... This is a complicated one because it never really states it explicitly, but she does deny intervention for magical means. In my opinion, Jane believes that, like, if this is her lot in life, it should be it should be by her choices. And so she chooses to go through the chemotherapy instead of doing, like, magic stuff because she's like, well, no, like, I'm human. If you can save me from this, why can't you save everybody else on Earth from this?
That's really, well, one, like, fair fucking point. Like,
yeah.
be like, if you can do this just for me, why are you refusing it to do it for like a whole group of other people? But also, not many people could refuse that like she did. Like, if you think about it, some people, whether it's for selfishness or what have you, or whether it's just them thinking like, I want to live more to see my kids, like no matter what the reason is, some people will not view denying a reason to be healed in the snap of a finger.
Yeah.
Like she is. She's choosing to go the way that
everybody else
does. And how everyone else does. And her chance of survival in that case isn't as lucky as the deal that these godly entities are giving her. And I can commend that, because I don't even know what I would do if I was given that decision.
Yeah. She's choosing to die as a human, which is something, like, she values human life so much. You see so much of that in these comics, just how much she values even just the existence of life.
Another reason why she was worthy. Da-da-da-da.
Yeah, so just heartbreaking. So she gets taken back to Earth, and while this is all happening, the Mangog has broken through into Asgard, and he's just decimating the gods fighting against him.
Oh, shit.
He is so strong. He is, like, massive. So it's, like, a huge beast with this really cool, I'd say probably kind of Asian-inspired, like, almost samurai.
Yeah,
the
way his face is designed kind of reminds me of like an Oni.
Oni, that's what I was thinking of.
Mask.
Yeah. It's really cool. So yeah, the gods are fighting against this giant creature, and Jane is back on Earth fighting for her life. As she's... Yeah.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
As she's kind of shuffling around the hospital with like all these people watching her, being like, no, you have to get your treatments, and forcing her to stay there, she ends up running into one of her friends named Bonnie.
Bonnie.
And Bonnie is also going through chemo. Okay. And so when she sees her, she's like, I haven't seen you in a while, and that usually means not good things.
Oh.
So that usually means that people have died if they don't show back up to the chemo.
Oh.
And so she was worried, and so she was all excited to see Jane, and she asked her to come and pray with her. And it's this small... It's like maybe 5 panels long, but it's this small interaction that this is what I base the idea of why she's sticking to chemo instead of magical means, is because she sees these people regularly and she watches them go through it, and she's like, why can't I save her too? And so she ends up praying with her friend, because her friend believes in prayer, and so she does that. And I think that gives her the strength to make the decision that she does. Because Jane knows, and has been told by doctors, that if she becomes Thor one more time, she'll die. But if she doesn't, Asgard will fall.
Oh.
Seriously, these comics made me cry. Very few comics make me cry, but it's heart-wrenching. The Hammer knows her heart and shows up in her hospital room and is waiting for her. And so she takes it and she goes up to fight the Mangog. At one point in the battle, he asks her why she would die for the gods. And she replies, I die for love.
Aww.
Yeah.
Aww. Die for love.
It's an incredible battle. They're extremely well matched, but at the end she ends up binding the Mangog with mighty chains attached to Mjolnir, and then throws it along with the Mangog into the sun.
Oh, damn.
Thus killing, or as Jane may prefer, freeing the storm that was the mighty Mjolnir, along with the monster.
I like how she made it not be like, I killed this all-powerful weapon.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk a little bit about that too. I have a couple more points that aren't really necessary for the storylines.
What happens next? I need to know. Did she die?
So because Mjolnir is gone, she can feel the magic fading, and she removes her helmet. Odin's son at this time is angry because as he sees it, she threw his hammer into the sun. And so he's kind of mad, but she takes off her helmet and she kisses him. And because she didn't want to like have their last time seeing each other be angry. And then the magic leaves her body. And Jane Foster dies.
No, that doesn't happen. Rewind. I didn't mean to interrupt, but no, what Alison meant to say was she takes off her helmet, they kiss, the magic goes away, Jane Foster goes back to Earth, continues her chemotherapy, and she's fine!
Now you're just sad me telling you this. Like, imagine reading this like comic by comic each week. It's so hard.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just couldn't handle that you were telling me that she's fucking dead.
But it's Marvel, so not everybody is as dead as they seem.
So true.
In the next comic, so she's dead for like a week while I'm waiting for the next comic.
She's dead just for a week. It's fine.
And in the next comic, we see Jane standing before the gates of Valhalla.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yes.
That's good. That means she's alive.
It's at this point that Odin comes to her and says that she has earned her place there.
Does he call her woman?
No. This is his...
good side?
This is when he realizes... He's like, you killed this creature when none of us could. This is him kind of like eating crow a bit. Got it. So he's kind of realized the error of his ways by witnessing her strength and by seeing exactly why it is that she was worthy of that hammer. And he sees her hesitation at the doors, and he returns to Asgard, where Odin's son is attempting to revive Jane by harnessing some of the now released power of the Tempest Storm from within Mjolnir.
Oh, okay.
He's unable to harness enough, and so Odin helps him, and the two of them together revive Jane. It's incredible. Like, seriously, I cannot stress enough how beautiful these comics are. They are gorgeous.
Not only in storytelling, but the artwork.
Yes, like the whole thing.
Who's the artist?
The artist shifts a little bit in a couple of the different comics, but it kind of keeps the same sort of style. The artist in this one is Russell Dodderman. He does quite a few of them.
Okay.
There's usually the same ones for usually the runs.
Is the artist that draws the same as the, like, does that artist also do the coloring, or?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just curious.
No, the coloring artist is Matthew Wilson.
Got it. Cool.
Mm-hmm. So Jane begins her treatment again. This time being a good patient. And actually attending her chemotherapy sessions and
Good
not turning
choice.
into Thor on her weekends.
Very proud of her.
Yes. And we end with her kind of musing to herself about how she now understands why the Thors care so much about their hammers. And knowing how much she'll miss flying. There's actually a really cute, the beginning of the other series where I believe Odin's son comes back in the other series. I just bought number 1 because that was kind of the last episode in the series that was with Jane Foster Thor.
Okay.
It's kind of a really cute little epilogue where we meet Odin's son Thor's 3 granddaughters who are calling themselves the goddesses of thunder. And they're all awesome.
He has granddaughters?
He has granddaughters.
So, who are they the children of?
I don't know. It doesn't go that far into it, and I didn't care enough.
Okay. Just checking, because I was like, when...
Let me get a picture with all three of them.
Hot! Holy shit!
Yeah. They all have, like, awesome weapons, and they're all, like, fighters. They're all very much the same spirit of Thor.
Oh my...
Their costumes leave a little bit to be desired, but they're still super cool.
Oh, but Alison, ignoring the costumes aside.
Yeah.
Ignoring the costumes aside, the spunky short redhead.
Yeah.
And the tall, Goldilocks waved woman of the thunder evening. I'm turned on.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Granddaughters of Odinson.
Like, I need to know who the mom is.
I know.
Because
super
I'm
hot.
like, you must be proud of your daughters for being badass. I've just gotta say.
Yeah. So it's a really cute little kind of standalone comic where they go searching through time for Thor. And it's kind of at the beginning.
Lady Thor or Odinson Thor?
Jane Foster Thor.
Jane Foster Thor?
Yeah.
Right, not Lady.
Yeah, but it doesn't say that right away. And so you don't really, it kind of lulls you into that. Like, it plays on your assumptions.
Yeah.
So they go searching for Thor because throughout their entire childhood, Odinson would tell them stories of like the greatest Thor, and so she was their hero. And so they just want to go and meet Jane Foster.
Oh, that's so cute. That is a strong woman empowering 3 young women to also be strong. And, like, it's not even because Jane Foster is strong in the real way that matters. In heart, in mind, and, like, in giving up shit because you just want to do the better for humanity and not because of just thinking you deserve a power and so you're strong in that way because you're tough shit. No, she is strong in the real way, and she's empowering 3 young women, the goddesses of thunder, and I am so happy.
Do you want to know the best part?
Please tell me right now.
They find her in her mortal form. So they find her as she's been walking the block around the therapy center, and when they find her, she's like, she kind of seems like she's like, I don't know, like, if I'm the one that you're looking for. And she kind of understands the idea of time travel. So Jane's not exactly flummoxed by this.
Yeah.
But she's like, yeah, like, I've been walking around this block trying to find the courage to go in there. And then these 3 young women show up and tell her about everything that she meant to them and how much they, like, love her. And then before they leave, she gets to go flying with one of them again. And it's just like...
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
Oh, God, it's so good.
Oh, that is so wholesome. Oh, I'm so happy.
I know. It's so... her run... The writing, the artistry, like, everything about it, the morals that they put in, the story is like, they put so much thought and care into these comics. It shines through, and it's so cool. So I'm gonna quickly jump around to a couple of my favorite moments throughout these comics, because there's a lot to, like, cover, and I didn't really want to give you, like, a full recap again.
So these are the ones that are your favorite.
Yes, so these are my favorite moments.
At the end of each moment, are you going to tell me why they're your favorite in particular?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So the first one is pretty short. When Thor first picks up the hammer, there's actually literally propaganda posters that say false Thor with her face on them. Like, Odin goes all out trying to show that, like, she stole the hammer, she didn't earn it, like, all of these horrible things. And it just exactly mirrored what was happening in the real world, with people being like, she's not Thor, like, she's not really that, and it's so cool seeing it
Okay.
show back again. So there's another time when she is showing how cool she is in her mortal form when she stands up to Klie, the god of fear.
The god of fear.
Yes. Here it is.
Ooh!
So in the Mighty Thor number 15, Jane Fosters...
I love the t-shirt!
She stands up to Klie in one of the best outfits ever drawn in comic history. A pair of plaid pajama pants and a massive t-shirt with an oversized rainbow ice cream that has block letters on it saying "Big Gay Ice Cream."
Oh, love it.
As she's standing face to face with the god of fear. Like, giving no shits.
I like her comment. Yeah, hi, sorry. You should have told me you were coming by. I would have tried to make the place smell less like vomit.
Yes. And as I had mentioned, I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about like the relationship, the unique relationship that Jane Foster has with Mjolnir.
Please,
because she, whereas I feel like, I don't know, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Thor Odinson never really saw the hammer as its own thing, whereas Jane Foster Thor took the time to kind of get to know the hammer. She went in search of the history of it, of how it was created. She found out that Mjolnir actually contains a massive storm called the Storm Tempest.
Ooh. So what you're telling me, Alison, is she fact-checked.
Oh, the God Tempest.
The god Tempest. Okay.
Yeah, and it has a mind of its own, and
So it's like sentient?
yeah,
Okay.
kind of, but like,
In a more feeling, raw way than
Yeah.
like a thinking thought sort of... Okay,
yeah, like
cool.
in like an unruly kind of massive existence of passion and might.
Ooh, got it.
So that's really cool. And now I would like to talk about Exterminatrix.
What?
The most bananas supervillain. I never even knew that she existed, and now all I want to do is dress up as her because she is the most, like, fucked up, crazy villain.
Is she a newer villain, or has she technically been in the comics a while?
She's been in the comics a while, but I don't think she's, like, super well used.
Okay.
So I'm gonna... Where is it? So...
What the fuck? Can you talk while I watch? My God.
Yes, so Exterminatrix, her real name is Oubliette Midas. She is essentially dressed in like a super dominatrix outfit, like boots all the way up to her crotch, like high heels. They got
shoulder pads.
They
my
got the red
God.
bottoms, so you know them Christian Louboutins. Like, you know she spent the money. And she's got this, like, killer little, like, cape with some probably shoulder pads under there. And she's got, like, a gimp mask on, but it has no mouth hole. And it just has, like, a kiss of, like, red lipstick on the outside. And she's got this, like, huge red ponytail coming out the top. She's so cool. And this is one of her...
Definitely not a costume I think would... Like,
Oh, yeah.
it looks so fucking cool, but I'm thinking, like, there has to be some pain.
Oh, yeah, because
wearing
of this. This is her statement. From the next comic, she says this about herself. I'm Oubliette Midas. My father was an irradiated sadist who named me after an instrument of torture and raised me to be his personal murder doll. So she's...
The fuck?
Yeah. I need, like, a series on her. I need to know her history. It's got to be, like, rated R and super fucked up with, like, tons of violence in it, but it's something I need.
Oh my God. That is rough.
Fun time.
Dear, I would... What type of upbringing is that? Oh my God.
Yes.
Back to Thor, please.
Back to Thor. Enough of Exterminatrix. There's this really sweet moment between Jane and Odinson when she finally tells him that she is Thor.
Ooh.
He at first doesn't take it well, but she knew that he was the only one who would understand, and she needed somebody to talk to because she's terrified of so many things, but mostly she is scared of losing herself. Scared to waste away in the flesh of Jane Foster, slowly losing the fight against cancer, but also scared of remaining as Thor forever and losing what makes her human and what makes her her. So it's this really touching scene where I think Odinson learns a lot about himself and about Jane.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he realizes that she didn't steal the hammer to hurt his feelings. It was nothing against him. She didn't take it for those reasons. And to see somebody he cares about so much, so scared, I think was a really big moment. It was really sweet because you see her going through these things. Like, they'd never take for granted that the audience just understands what Jane's thinking. They really show you and explain to you why she is so incredible. Before I talk about my number one favorite moment, I'm going to talk about one of probably the most heartbreaking moments in the comics, aside from, her dying. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background. There's a bunch of stuff going on for the War of the Realms. Malekith has brought in a bunch of the quote-unquote bad realms to be on his side. One of those realms is Muspelheim.
Oh.
So that's like the fire realm. And all of these realms are different worlds. There's the mountain realm, the frozen one.
Isn't there an elf realm?
There's a light elf one. There's the dark elf one. Yeah. Like, all of these things. And all of them have obviously good people and bad people on them. Like, their entire world's full of beings.
Yeah.
The Muspelheim warriors are fighting on Nidavellir, which I believe is the light elf one. Either way, Volstagg, the chubby warrior with the red hair, who's so sweet.
He's lovable.
Him and Jane are quite close because he helps her with her Congress duties, and he'll take her to the hospital and he'll wait with her because she needs somebody to travel with in order to get back to Earth to take her chemo.
Yeah.
And so he'll travel with her, and it's very sweet. So they're super close and their relationship is adorable. So Volstagg is trying to protect people on this realm, and he has his arms full of children as he's fleeing these warriors, and one of them throws a bomb at him. And these children might be elves, but they're not gods. They're not him.
Yeah.
And so the children die. They burn to ash in his arms, and he breaks. He's so full of rage and anger that he becomes War Thor. So a hammer from a different age of Asgard comes through the gate and tears itself into this world to come to Volstagg and to allow him to get this crazy strength and become War Thor. And so he goes to the realm of Muspelheim, and he starts essentially taking his revenge. And this is when Thor shows up and sees him blinded by his anger and
revenge,
everything. And in the background of some of these panels, you see these flame creatures. You see one carrying a child away, and you see him doing exactly what that thing did to him. He's destroying families. He's destroying innocent bystanders. And so Thor, bamps them to the yawning void. And then they fight, and they end up crashing into another one of the realms. This is where she shows him that she's Jane. Because she realizes she can't snap him out of this by fighting. She can't break this rage and this sorrow and pain by with muscles.
Yeah.
And so she drops the form and she shows him that she's like, I'm here as your friend. And it's okay.
Oh.
And there's this like beautiful drawing of like they're sitting on like this big tree branch and he's just like huddled over and she just got her hand on his back and she's just comforting him and like allowing him to feel that like pain and sorrow and being there for him as his friend. That's something that Thor could never do the way that Jane Foster does.
Yeah.
And it's just, oh my God.
Mm.
It's so good.
I am a sucker for good friendship.
Oh, I know. Just fucking heartbreaking. So now, last but not least, my favorite moment. So this is at the end of the first 1 through 8 run.
Okay.
And there is this absolutely incredible, like, call in the cavalry moment, you know, when the hero's on the ropes and you just don't know if they're going to survive. And then somebody comes in and, like the riders of, what is it, Rohan coming over the hill in Lord of the Rings and, like, all of this crazy stuff. So this comic has that moment that just is so awesome. So Thor is fighting a destroyer bot run by Klie, and so it's actually faster, it's reacting better. This is while Odin is still trying to kill Thor because he believes that she's evil, I guess.
Sure, okay.
Whatever. And so it's hurting her. It's actually like doing damage. I believe Freya is the one who finds out that they're doing this, and so she recruits Odinson, who then goes and gets all of those women that he had on that list and like barrels through a portal with them, and like all of these incredible like Norse awesome women come piling through, and they all just like destroy the destroyer together, and it's so good. I'll show you, please.
Oh, okay. Oh, she kisses the hammer.
Yeah.
I really like that. Oh, look at them. Holy shit. Oh, Captain Marvel is there.
Yes. Like Brumhild's there. There's a bunch of the like Sif's there. Scarlet Witch is there. Black Widow. Like Valkyrie, Spider-Woman is there.
I see her at the back.
And there, it continues in this one.
Oh my word. Oh my word. You know who they don't have? Who I think could just kick major booty? Rogue. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
This was still when there was a lot of things with Fox and Disney. So they weren't really doing much with the mutants that
fair.
Fox had.
That's fair. But I'm digging it.
And now I'm going to go on a hopefully really quick little side tangent.
Okay.
Because this is like the last thing I have to talk about.
Is it the last side tangent?
This is the last thing I have to talk about. And it's Love and Thunder.
Oh, yes! Okay, I am saddled up, ready to go. Put me on this ride, Taika Waititi. Oh, yes, Natalie Portman. Okay, I'm ready, Alison.
So there's not a whole lot known yet about Love and Thunder. It's supposed to be released November 5th of 2021. It's currently, I believe, in pre-production. So far, they have, obviously, Tessa Thompson, Taika Waititi, Chris Hemsworth, and Natalie Portman coming on as the real like main gangbuster cast. I'm super happy that Taika Waititi is coming back as Korg because Korg was amazing and I love him. He's such a sweet boy. And him coming back as a director too is really, really cool. We have Christian Bale slated as a villain, unnamed villain.
Oh.
And we have Vin Diesel, who is not on the IMDb. So this is only from an article I read on one of the fandom websites, which I have a link to later. You can find if you care. But as the voice of Groot. So we might be seeing some Guardians of the Galaxy crossover.
Okay. Okay. I love Groot.
So I have some quotes from a article from insider.com. There's 4 just kind of about the production of the movie. So the first one is, quote, "It's going to be bigger and louder and more bombastic," Waititi told Wired in 2019, in October 2019. And then he goes on to say, "It's only interesting to me if we're doubling down on how nuts Ragnarok was."
Sweet.
Which is exactly what I want. All I want from a Thor movie is like crazy shit in space.
I loved Ragnarok.
Ragnarok, honestly, is probably my number 1 favorite of all of the movies.
Kiss. Mwah.
Mwah. Perfection. How did Taika Waititi get a story of refugees into a multi-billion-dollar Disney joint? I do not know.
He did it, and it's great.
It was his adorable attitude, and all of the pictures of him snuggling with everybody on the couch, and how fabulously, like, non-scared they are about being touchy-feely. They're so cute. And then there's another one. This is a quote about Tessa Thompson wanting to make Valkyrie openly queer in the movies. So Waititi responded to this by saying, "With the actors, I feel whatever makes them comfortable. Whether they feel like there's a natural choice or a natural way for that character to go, then I'm pretty supportive. If Tessa wanted to do that, I'm in."
Yeah!
So, yeah!
Wow! Fuck yeah!
Let's make this shit canon.
So ready for it!
Thompson, as I mentioned, is back as Valkyrie, and she has the support of the director wanting it to be explicitly queer, which is super awesome.
Dope.
It's also come out that they are not sure if the cancer storyline will still be in the final version, but they are taking a lot of inspiration from these runs of comics. Like, they really feel like it's important to get the feeling of these comics into the movies.
Got it. Cool.
The Guardians might end up in it, and both Goldblum and Ruffalo would be willing to take part in the film as well.
Oh, Goldblum! Oh, yes!
Alison's favorite.
I loved his role.
He was so good.
It was fun.
So yeah, that's all the information that I have on Love and Thunder, but I'm very excited about it. I
should be.
Loved just like the color of Ragnarok, and I can't wait to get, and then there's that awesome quote from Tessa Thompson about how as the king of Asgard, she needs her queen. And I'm just like, yes.
Can't wait.
Openly queer characters.
Whoa.
So, do you have any more questions before I sign off?
One question.
Okay.
And I want you to answer with one word.
Okay.
How would you describe Jane Fosters Thor, the impact the character had on you, in one word?
I could go with something like inspiring, because obviously. But I'd almost go with something more like introspective. I found that reading these comics and going on this journey with Jane Foster trying to come to terms with being all-powerful with the hammer, but then also struggling so much in her mortal life, but still valuing her mortal life above all else. The idea that she believes so much in the worth and the value of other beings' lives above her own is extremely inspiring, but it also makes you look at your own kind of beliefs, and it makes you question, like, would I ever be willing to do that? Like, would I ever be able to give up the kinds of things that she did? And just even like in the small things that she does, like being there for Volstagg. and those kinds of things. And it shows that there's so much strength in just being human. And yeah.
Good job, Alison.
Thank you. A plus.
Stamp check. Here
I
you
am
go.
so sorry with how long this episode is.
I'm sure you'll have things to cut out.
It's like
It'll
an
be
hour
fine.
and a half right now.
It'll be fine. You got time.
So, that's why I love Thor. Fonda, before we end off this extremely long episode of the Wench Bench,
Oh,
what are you excited about right now?
I'm gonna make it short and quick.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I am quite excited specifically for the Black Widow movie that's coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Or will already be out by the time this episode is up.
Yes.
Reason being, I am excited to see what they're going to do because a movie like this has been talked about and in the works for a long time. So I'm excited to see how it goes.
I'm excited to see just more of Black Widow's actual story. Like, give
Yeah.
her some, not just throwaway screen time.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
Super excited about Black
Yeah,
Widow,
I
too.
think it'll be good. Anyways, that's what good old little me is excited about. Now, you can find us wherever podcasts can be found. Please make sure to rate and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help us. We're getting some in on iTunes, and it's really nice to see, so thank you. You can follow us on Tumblr and Twitter and Instagram at wenchbenchpod. And if you want to reach out, you can always send us an email at wenchbenchpod@gmail.com. All of our fantastic art for the Wench Bench was designed by the wonderful Tessa Joyce Riecken, and you can find her on Twitter at Werevile. But yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye. As I mentioned, Jane Fonda takes... It's in there forever now. If Jane Fonda were younger, she would play Jane Foster. And it would ruin my life. Because I would never get them straight.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh.
Oh no. Go ahead. Laugh at me.
I just know what it's like when you keep fucking up a person's name. You're like, God damn it.